Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends, these are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Well, today's story is all about resilience, health, and hope. At the young age of 17, my guest faced a life-changing diagnosis that could have halted her progress and dampened her spirit. Instead, it ignited a lifelong journey of discovery and determination. Over the past 47 years, she's dedicated herself to uncovering and practicing strategies that not only promise, but deliver a healthier and more vibrant life. So what does all that mean? Well, you're going to find out in a few minutes. But first, we have to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. All right, so now that we've done that, we get to meet our guests. So meet Tracy Herbert, a living testament to the power of never giving up. Tracy's journey is nothing short of inspirational, marked by a monumental 3,527-mile solo bicycle ride from San Francisco to New York City. This feat was more than an endurance challenge. It was a demonstration of the efficacy of her life's work and strategies. Through her message and mission, Tracy provides hope and tangible strategies that empower individuals to lead a longer, healthier, and happier life. So welcome to the show, Tracy. I am so excited to chat with you today.
Hey, Jennifer, I'm so glad to be here. It's going to be fun.
I know you have such a great, fun personality. I love it. I love your energy. I love what you're doing. Love what you've done. And I'm just excited to dive into all of this. I know we had such a fun time chatting before this episode when we met the first time.
And we could be lifelong friends because I love your podcast too. They are wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a lot of fun on this show. I think, I must say these bios, I have fun putting these together. I love taking y'all stories and just kind of creating this little picture of who you are as an individual. But I think the best part of everything is just meeting all of the amazing people that come on here and their stories and the adversity that they've gone through and what they've learned. And so that's what this show is really all about.
Well, and it's a great one. My journey started, like you mentioned, at 17 years old. I'm lying in ICU and the doctor walks in. He puts his hands on his hips. I mean, weird. And he said, "Young lady, you've got juvenile diabetes. You're going to be dead in 20 years. You're going to have horrible complications. You're going to go blind. You'll have your legs amputated." I mean, he kept going on and on and on. Not if, but you will have all these things happen. And he said, "You're never going to be able to have any children." And as he turned around and started walking out, he said, "Oh, by the way, you'll have to take several shots a day for the rest of your life because there's not a cure." And I'm 17. My parents are sitting there. We're all just, our mouths are wide open going, "What did he say?" And he left. He didn't have any time to say, "Are you okay, Tracy? Do you have any questions, y'all?" Nothing. But I don't want to make him out as a villain because he's not. He's one of the best things that ever happened to me because he was so negative, telling me all the things that could happen, that I started thinking, okay, it's not going to happen to me. So I started going to the local college medical school library section, and I started reading everything I could about being healthy. Now, this was way before the internet, and all that. And so everything I started researching, I thought, okay, I might be able to try this. I might be able to try that. And then my friends and I, our first outing out after my diagnosis, I was going to a movie with all the friends, and you walk into the movie theater and first thing you smell is popcorn. And I'm remembering my mom saying, "Tracy, remember, you can't eat anything." Now, she didn't say that to be mean. She didn't say it because we didn't have the money. She was helping me learn discipline because I couldn't have the popcorn. I couldn't have anything. Well, I chose not to because I wanted to live a longer, healthier life. But because our words are important, but I went to the concession stand clerk and asked for a cup so I could just get a small cup of water out of the drinking fountain. And she looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, "No, I'll be glad to pay for it." And she said, "No." And Jennifer, at that time, I ran out of the movie theater. I'm screaming, I'm crying because now I'm so depressed because everybody's telling me the same thing. You're going to be dead. You're going to die in 20 years. You're going to die with horrible complications. And then I couldn't even get a cup for a drink of water. We
Right.
didn't have diet soft drinks back then. We didn't
Right.
have bottled water or anything. And so I'm driving home and I got home and I'm crying in bed. I mean, it's ridiculous how much I'm crying. And at that moment, my life changed again. So this is like within 2 months, I had two major life changes. First, the doctor not even giving me one bit of hope, nor
Yeah.
anybody in the hospital, but now this concession stand clerk. And I
Right.
said, Tracy, you have two choices. You can either be better or you can be bitter. And what are you going to choose? And at that moment, I said out loud, because when we speak positive words out loud, it helps to stick in our brains, even when things get tough. And I said, I choose to be better. And so now 47 years later, I still every day do something I can to make myself better and not bitter, because it's not just diabetes. Everybody goes through things in life.
Right.
And what's so important is when you start realizing how the mind has so much importance in what we say out loud and also internally to ourselves. And when you start changing from I can't to I can, or what I want to do, your life changes. And then you also have so much more positivity in your life. And
Yep.
that's what I've been focusing on, learning, not just for myself, but obviously my clients. But I want to make sure that there's so many hopeless people out there. They just feel hopeless. And I'm like, no, find one thing that's going to help you build yourself up so you have a little bit of positivity. Because as long as we have breath, right, we can do something to make some changes in our life. And that's really what my mission is all about. Yes, I've been researching medical stuff for 47 years now because my life depends on it,
Right.
literally. But also, I do it because I want to make informed decisions about my own life.
Mhm.
And, that's so hard nowadays with the internet because you have to be very, very careful because there's a lot of people out there right now that'll say, hey, drink this drink or take this pill and you
Mm.
won't have whatever's problem with it. And it's like,
Right.
no, it doesn't work that way. And so I always do my science-based research to make sure what I'm getting is the most up-to-date information out there. And that's what I've been doing. And that's what I love. But what's important to me is people that are going through struggles in life, I don't want them to lose hope.
Yeah, this is so good. Okay, so I'm stuck. I'm going back all the way to the beginning of your story, and like this just keeps going through my head because I'm picturing this 17-year-old girl in a room in the hospital, and this doctor comes in and is just telling you all these things. And there's this part of you that feels hopeless, but there's this part of you that's going, you are not going to tell me that I'm going to be stuck with this and I'm going to die with this, right? Like there's this
Mm-hmm.
fire part of you, like sort of gave me chills when you were talking about that because I could see a part of me, and that's only because I've had to deal with doctors. I've had doctors tell me stuff, not that, but other things. And I've been
Mm-hmm.
just furious because, first of all, I think we are not our conditions. We are
Mm-hmm.
not those things
Mm-hmm.
that we have. And we can have a quality of life if we choose to do things differently. And so that part of me, hearing you say that is just, I can just only imagine what you were thinking at that time as a child being, I'm trusting this figure of authority to tell me something
Mm-hmm.
important. And yet all they're doing is giving me doom and gloom and no hope. And
Yeah.
there's this fiery inside of you saying, but I'm not going to let that stop me, you know?
Correct.
So what a story,
And
and then
what
you've gone on. Go ahead.
and what's important is they even had the audacity to tell my parents, don't waste your money sending her to college because her
Mm,
life expectancy isn't that long. And I'm so thankful my parents didn't listen to it, nor
yeah.
did I. And I guess that's probably where I got most of my oomph in my life as my parents. But, they were all saying, you can't even do that. Don't do it. And when somebody tells you you can't, and
Right.
often all the time and time again, just like you were saying, we're like, no, we're going to do it. We'll show you. And that's exactly my attitude,
But
even going off to college.
you have that fighting spirit. And there are a lot of people that, excuse me, that don't. They hear that and they automatically go into that's my life. That's what I
Mhm.
have. And I think, there's so many things about this story, but also another thing I want to point out is that you've spent 47 years dedicating yourself to researching and looking at this because your life is dependent on it. And everybody, I myself have a chronic condition. Anybody that I know that's ever had a chronic condition, we know a lot of stuff about the stuff we're dealing with, right? Because we have to get versed in it. And a lot of times it is defying a lot of what we know in medicine and having to go outside and explore different things and become knowledgeable in those areas. And I met a lady in one of the clinics because, I shared with you off that I was doing infusions. And so people listen, they'd be like, okay, what are these infusions? Well, I was doing metal detoxing and I was doing iron infusions. But one of the neat things, not that I had to go through all that stuff because I hated all of that, but I will tell you, I met some amazing people in the clinic that I was visiting. People with all kinds of stories. I met a woman whose husband had cured himself of prostate cancer without ever doing a day of chemo. I met, another person that was that a rheumatoid arthritis that was in there and was working with that. But all of these people, but I will tell you the common thread that I noticed with all these people, one is that I felt like I was in my place. As sadly as that sound, I felt like I was in my place with my people because I could talk freely about these alternative solutions I was doing, but also that they were all very versed in their conditions and the treatments that they were exploring and doing to heal themselves, or at least return some quality of life for themselves.
Absolutely. And that's what the doctors always ask me, how are you still alive and what are you doing? Which I think is great because then it gives me an opportunity to share strategies, which my first doctor, before he retired, he wanted me to write my first book on diabetes, because he said, you've got to get this message out there to people because people don't know this kind of stuff. But the second thing is, what are you doing? How do you have more energy in your 60s than I did in my 30s? Because I literally have more energy today than I did even 30 years ago. And it all boils down to doing what works best for you. Just like the infusions seem to be working well for you. What works for you may not work for me and vice versa. But you do what works best for you. Then just like eating, certain foods are very, very healthy, but they may not help you. Like I'm allergic to spinach, so I don't eat spinach. Spinach is healthy. Ask Popeye, right? I mean, that's what's so important. But when you realize what hurts your body and doesn't help, things change. And so little simple things like what you're doing is impactful. And it's so important when we don't close our minds to certain things. We got to keep our minds open to what's going to work best for our bodies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to talk about your bike ride because I think this is so awesome what you did here. I want to know how this came about for you and what this was like for you. Tell our audience a little bit about this because this is huge.
It all started every decade after my 20 years of living with diabetes. I've always done something to celebrate because I choose to be better, not bitter, And so as I was approaching my 40th anniversary of my diagnosis, and I started thinking, okay, what can I do to celebrate? And I started thinking about it. And I thought, I'm going to go across the country. I'm a long distance bicyclist. I'm a runner. I'm a hiker. I'm a backpacker. I'm doing all the things anyway. And I thought, I would take my bicycle and go across the country. Not something what most people would do, but I did it just for myself to celebrate originally. But on the third or fourth day of my ride, I got a message from a mom, and her daughter at that time was 6 years old. And she said she'd had type 1 diabetes, just like I have. And she said she wants to give up on life. She's so sick and tired of it. She feels miserable. She's had it for 2 years. And the mom was telling me in a message, a social media message, she said, I went out and bought her a bicycle, map of the United States, and she cut out a picture of a bicycle and a picture of your head. And she started tracking me along my ride. And I kept thinking, okay, Tracy, she's on my team. I'm riding for her. And the more people I started reaching out to me, and the more my story got bigger and bigger, it started making me realize, Tracy, this is nothing about you. It's about other people. And so as I started meeting people, like, I have to share this story because this is one that encourages everybody on the planet. But I met a lady in Sacramento while I was waiting for the light to turn green. And she just happened to just mention something about it's nice to ride your bicycle across the city. And I'm like, well, I'm going to New York City, but okay. And so I really had that gut feeling I need to go talk to her. So I got off my bicycle and I just went over and started talking to her. Lovely, lovely lady. She was probably in her early to mid 30s. And unfortunately, she had a whole lot of extra weight on her body.
Mm.
And she's telling me she was embarrassed because she was waiting for her brother to pick her up. She had to walk about 3 houses down to get home, but she couldn't go that far. Well, the health coach in me came out and I started asking her questions. Could you do this? Could you do that? Everything she said, no, I can't. I finally said, could you walk to the end of your driveway? And just for a second, you could see that glimmer of hope. And she said, I think I can. Wow, that's what we needed. So I told her, walk in your driveway, rest, and walk back. And then do that every day. Go a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further. It's not rocket science, y'all. It's just small steps equals huge changes. And I got a message from her as I was riding my bicycle into New York City. And she said, I just have to let you know, I signed up for my first 5K walk. Okay, 3.1 miles. The same lady who couldn't even walk 3, 4, 5 houses down from the bus stop. And she said, Tracy, what I didn't even realize was not only am I walking all the time, I'm so much healthier. I have more energy. She said, the weight is falling off of me. She said, I'm not even really changing my diet. But what I'm noticing is when I'm walking more, I want to eat less. And that's exactly what everything is about. My 3M formula. Have the right mindset. Mouth, learn to eat to live, don't live to eat, and move. We have to get off our chairs and move more. And she's such a bright example of how anything is possible as long as we start small and do little bitty things. And I met people along my ride. People were stopping and giving me water, cheering for me. One day in Nebraska, I was just sitting on the side of the road resting, and a couple brought me food, a nice lunch to eat. People would stop and give me money. Hey, here's some money. What can we help you with? I got lost the whole entire time. I could have done it in less than 3,500 miles, but I always tell everybody that 27 miles really was me just driving around getting lost. But it started out about me, and it ended up providing so much hope for so many people, because I was speaking at hospitals, I was speaking at camps, I was speaking at summer school for young children, and it just really impacted me, because I left Texas thinking, going to California, oh, everybody's in a horrible spot. Everybody's upset with each other. We don't get along. And it ended up saying, no, we get along really, really well, because people were out there cheering for me, honking their horn, saying, you've got this, going up those tall mountains and everything else. And it was such a great experience. Leaving Reno, or heading from Trunky, California to Reno. I was always supposed to be on my bicycle for 3 hours that day. Well, I got lost, like I said, all the time. And I'm carrying my bicycle over a mountain because I'm so lost. I had one choice, either stop the ride or, keep going. So I carried my bicycle over huge boulders. I mean, out of water, out of food. I mean, it was the craziest thing. Got back down and got my bicycle and started pedaling again.
You're amazing.
Entrepreneurs, are you ready to level up your leadership skills? Tune in now for an exclusive offer designed just for you.
This is my time.
Did you know 63% of consumers prefer businesses aligned with their values? Recognizing your core values isn't just vital for business growth, it's the bedrock of effective leadership. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or an aspiring creator, identifying your core values is a key step in constructing the framework of a successful leader, enabling you to lead authentically, expand your business, and live life on your terms.
I never settled on play, putting the kettle to flame. I go 100 all day, foot on the pedal, no brakes. 10, 9, paid all my dues, waited in line, 8, 7.
Are you ready to access tools to kickstart your leadership journey? Unlock a treasure trove of insights and get your free resources at www.linktree/Jennifer Loading. Take that crucial first step toward realizing your leadership aspirations and elevate your leadership game today.
Ready to shine, brighter than all of the
What a great story. And it's so interesting when you hear these kinds of stories. And I think it's how a lot of things evolve in our businesses and stuff, how we start out doing things for us, and then it sort of kind of becomes about other people. I had a gal on my show a while back that she did a world record and completed the 7-second summits. And it all started because she had gotten in this major car accident. I don't know if I shared this with you. Got in a major car accident. And she came out of that. And I think one of her kids challenged her, like, what are you going to do? Like, she was almost supposed to die from this car accident. They didn't think she was going to survive, and she did. And so she decided she was going to go climb a mountain. I think she ended up doing Mount Everest, and then that wasn't enough, but she told this story in the episode. This is what I remember from all of this, how she got her kids involved at her school. And it started becoming more, it wasn't just about her climbing this mountain. They were all following her and tracking her. And it really became about, she didn't want to let them down. And so it started out, it was kind of about her, but then it became bigger and it became about the other people that were being inspired by her efforts and her feats and all the things she was going through, the journey of it.
That's exactly right. Well, like I mentioned, I wasn't supposed to have children. I have 2 healthy kids, but I'm also a grandmother of 6. At the time I rode my bike across the country, I only had 4 grandkids. But it's my daughter, my youngest daughter. She was the one that was really nervous because my kids grew up watching the horrors of type 1 diabetes with me, because until we had this better technology that we have now, it was really, really, really tragic and scary for my kids. So my daughter sat down and wrote me out a contract. And she said, you're not going unless you sign this, Mom. But she was saying, if your blood sugar drops too low or goes too high, you must stop. If you feel bad, you must stop. And it was her way. I mean, she was already out of college by that time, but it was her way of sharing, you've got to take good care of yourself. And then she was my biggest supporter. And my kids are all great. I love my kids. Don't get me wrong. But she was such a strong supporter. But until I could convince her that I'm going to take my care. We have to take care of ourselves first. Just like your interview with the lady that did the other mountains, Mount Everest and others. She also has probably the personality I have. We're going to go for it and go with it with gusto. But in the back of our minds, what do we do if this happens, so we can make a plan to keep going, but regroup? Right.
Yes, no, it's good. And it takes a lot of determination. And I think, and you got to be prepared. I mean, my husband's an endurance athlete, and so he's done nothing like that, but he's done 100-mile races, which are, those are intense in themselves, because they're like anywhere from, I think his shortest race he did in 15 hours, his longest in 24 hours. And people always ask the question, are you running the whole time? Yeah, pretty much. They're just running. It's kind of like your bike. They're just going. They might stop to go to the bathroom or eat some, but they just kind of keep going, So it does take a certain amount of dedication, but you also got to be prepared for the what ifs and and that takes a certain amount of resiliency in the mindset to be prepared for that. Like you said, carrying your bike over these boulders or whatever you had to go through,
Yep. And we have to expect setbacks, just like in business, just like in health, just like in life. I mean, we all have setbacks, but how are we going to work through those setbacks? Which is what I kind of started thinking about before my ride started. Okay, it's going to be hard. What are you going to think about? And, if I had left the Golden Gate Bridge saying, I've got 3,527 miles until I get to the Brooklyn Bridge,
right,
I would have been overwhelmed. But every day, just like we did as kids, I'm going for a bike ride. And I made it fun because, again, it's so important with having the right mindset. Because when we have the right mindset and know something could happen, and probably will along the way, then we just figure, okay, we'll readjust. We'll take a new route. In Chicago, I was meeting with a large group of people, and I got back into my car or my bike and started thinking about things. And I realized I had a message, and it was from Dr. Oz's team. And so they wanted me to finish on the ride. Well, I had 2 choices. Again, that's all about choices. But I thought, okay, I could either tell them I can't, or I could change my schedule and make it to work out for them. Because again, my goal is to provide hope for people. So I just slowed down my ride from Chicago back through New York City. I just slowed it down a little bit. It was fine, but it was so well worth it because the message got out even more. And again, it's not about Tracy Herbert. It's about this grandma who at that time had diabetes for 40 years and what she's doing to improve her life. And she rode her bicycle across the United States.
This is so fun. Such a great story. And I know you've gotten to appear all over the place. I know we talked before. I think I'd asked you something about being, you're like, I've been speaking everywhere. I'm like all over the place. So what a fun way to share your story and inspire and give hope to people out there going, whatever they may be going through that could be a debilitating condition.
That's exactly right. Whatever that is, a lot of people are debilitated just because they're fearful. I'm afraid to take that step. I'm afraid to start that business. I'm afraid to take this new position. That's just as devastating as having diabetes or any other disease.
It'll stop you in your tracks for sure. So tell us about your books, because I know you've got like several books back there. So tell us a little bit about those.
The first book, like I mentioned, my endocrinologist, doctors who help people with diabetes, among other things, he's the one that suggested the first book. He said, you've got to do this. And so I grew up having, now we know it was dyslexia. Back in the 60s, you didn't know it was dyslexia, in early 70s. But I kept saying, I can't, I'm not able to read and write well enough. But I had taught myself throughout college and as an adult. But I just started writing. I just sat down one day and just started writing. And I started realizing, wow, this is really impactful, because it helped me realize, how am I still alive? And so that's when I really came up with, like I said, my 3M formula: mind, mouth, and move. Because that's how I'm still alive today, is by those three components. And then my second book is Ride for Hope, which chronicles my bicycle ride across the United States. And then my third book is called Longevity Codes. And it's breaking down the science of how to live a longer, healthier life. And I don't want to live a longer life if I'm not healthy. I don't want to live a longer life if I'm not happy. So it's things that you can start doing right now to improve your health and life. And my husband actually co-authored it with me, which was very interesting, because I got to share this story. And he's given permission, obviously, but for, I don't know, decades, he was overweight and on 3 different medications, not listening. I don't coach people that don't want to be coached. He didn't have any desire. Let's just say this. He didn't have any desire to learn anything.
Yeah.
But then one day, I guess the light bulb went off for him, and he woke up and he said, all right, I need help. What do I do? So we just started kind of working on some strategies for him to do. And now 19 years later, he's still off all of his medication, and he's not overweight anymore. We first started bike riding. He could ride a mile and a half, and now he can go on 40-mile bike rides with me. So it's just, when you think you can't or you don't want to, you're not going to change. It's not until it gets bad enough or you start feeling tired or whatever that strategy is, you got to change.
That's so good. You said so many things there. I was laughing because I'm like, yeah, spouses are not good for coaching.
Yes.
We really like to help people. Like, we just have to refrain from that part, because they have to be like open receivers to hear that. I'm with you on that one. But I do think, yes. And you said so many good points here, really, about just starting, and I think so often people try to make huge changes. And I always talk about this in the work that I do, that when I'm working with people on the business side of things, and sometimes we touch into the health stuff, but a lot of times I send them off to people that do that. But I feel like we always kind of come back to the same thing. These people, they come in and they want to make these big instrumental changes in their life, and they take on so much change at one time. And a lot of that change is not something that they've been doing their whole life. They haven't been doing it for any period of time. And if you know anything about the whole state of learning, we know that it takes years for us to get to a place where a habit that we add in becomes an unconscious competent thing, like driving our car, brushing our teeth. These are things we're so used to doing. But most people come in and they're like, I want to make these big changes. And they put them in a place where they're not really prime for success. They're just not in a great place for success. And so this whole idea of, really small instrumental changes, I think, or incremental, whatever you want to say, I think are so huge, because when we can create these small changes and then we create wins, positions of wins, we build confidence in ourselves and our ability to do more things. And that's where you're seeing these successes. And I'm sure, as you were training for your bike ride, you were probably doing a lot of these little small incremental change, increases in mileage and all of those things.
But I've done that my whole life with diabetes, because it's not rocket science. It's just do the right things and eat the right foods and get the right movement. I mean, so people always say, how did you train for it? I've been training my whole life. I was an athlete before I was diagnosed, but then I was not allowed to participate in school sports my senior year because of I was sick, my diabetes. Back then they didn't know what they know today.
Right.
But the important thing is, though, I don't like people saying, oh, I need to get healthy because I'm going on vacation. I want to lose 20 pounds because I'm going to the beach, or my doctor told me I have to lose weight, or I have to get healthy. No, because what it's all about is it's got to come from internal, like we talked about earlier. But also what's so important is you have to do it for the right reasons. And it's not for a specific time and place. It's, I want to live longer so I can play with my great grandkids. I don't want to sit on my rocking chair the rest of my life. You may want to, but do something to prevent you from having to sit on your rocking chair or going into a nursing facility when you're age. That's what's so important. So you don't think about your health as a specific time frame. You think
Right.
about for the rest of your life. What am I going to do today to make tomorrow even better and the next day even better?
That's so good. So I heard someone put it one day, and I don't know who this was. It was so funny. And I actually like this because I kind of say the same thing. He said, I don't want to die of something stupid.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
I love it because this is me. I tell myself that I'm like, I don't want to die because I overate or I ate junky food. You know what I mean? But that's not really it. It's really, I want to live it's a quality of life. We want a quality of life, right? And that's
Correct.
what I think. And I think what you're hitting on here is it's more about a lifestyle operation versus I'm losing weight to fit in the bathing suit or to go on like I'm going on a cruise next month. It's I don't even have I have no goal for going on the cruise. My whole goal is to have fun and relax. I want to go to the beach. I don't care what I look like. I just want to go. But so often that's what we do, right? It's like I'm getting in the bathing suit. I'm going on the cruise. I got the big dress. I got to look the part. But it's really what you're saying and you're embodying is lifestyle change.
Exactly. Just like my friend that we talked about earlier in Sacramento, who couldn't even walk 4 houses down, 3 or 4 or 5 houses down to her house. She had to wait for her brother and she was mortified.
Yeah.
But she didn't do it for any other reason except she just wanted to be able to walk home. And from that, it just went, perpetually just skyrocketed and her life has changed. So I'm glad she didn't say, well, I want to do it for this reason, just like going to the beach, because it's not going to, you may look good if that's what you want. But the problem is it's not going to stay because you haven't learned the consistent behavior. And that's why you don't want to do it like that. You want to slow and steady wins the race.
You have got it. Well, I love it. I love what you're doing. I'm loving that you're sharing the message and inspiring people. And what a testament to embodying this. I think it's so amazing that you didn't let this become who you are. Instead, took that adversity and made it your thing. Like you took ownership of it. I think that's what I want to say something else, but I'm going to say it on this podcast. You tackled that thing, right? You tackled it. So I love it. I wanted to tell you, thank you so much. This has been fun. I know you and I could chat forever. We're almost practically neighbors, which is fun. Maybe we'll get to, do lunch or something soon.
That'd be fun.
If our audience wants to get in touch with you, maybe they want to pick up your books, they want to find out, your story, more about you, connect with you, how or where do you want us to send them?
Everybody go to my website, tracyherbert.com, TracyHerbert.com. And there's free resources on there. And there you can get my books. If you can't get my books, I can send you a book. I mean, it's so important that you get healthy, whatever you're struggling with. And I even offer a 45-minute free strategy call. And I don't even sell you anything, even at the end. A lot of people say, oh, it's free. I'll talk to you for 45 minutes. The only thing I sell you is hope that you can, and I guarantee you'll walk away with 3 things you can do as soon as you hang up that phone that I can help you. That's why it takes me about 45 minutes. So I can kind of hear what they're saying and what do you need? What do you want? And then I kind of start, okay, think about this. Let's do this or think about that. And then you hang up, people always hang up the phone saying, but you're not selling me anything. I said, no, this is about you and what do you need? So, I'm here to help. That's what my calling is to help people have hope and be able to outlive what they think they can do.
So awesome, Tracy. Well, we appreciate you. And I know that this is, people are going to love this, hearing your story and your inspiring wisdom, all the cool things, the good fuzzy feely things here. So I want to tell you, thank you so much for sharing with me, giving us your time, giving the audience time, and just tell you go girl, keep doing your thing. Kudos to you.
Thank you so much. We are planning another adventure, more to follow.
Cool. Very cool. Well, you have to keep us posted on that for sure. Let me know so we can put, I would love to know personally, but also so we can put something out there too to encourage and kind of cheer you on. And with that, I do want to say to our audience, of course, if you enjoy us, we appreciate you being here and supporting the Behind the Dreamers and all these amazing guests that come on here. Head on over to Apple, give us a review there. You can also hit that subscribe button on the YouTube so we can keep sharing all these fabulous stories. And as I always say, to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.